5 must-haves for the business sales process. And so when exiting a business, you'll hear lots of phrases being thrown around. Confidential information memorandums, SIMs, data rooms, packages, teasers, overviews, and there's a lot of different components. But when you boil it down, what you're really trying to get to is a summary or an overview of the business that clearly communicates what is in place, why is it special, and what's its trajectory forward. And so to that point, although there's lots of items that ultimately find their way into these conversations, 5 must-haves that we want to highlight today for the business exit process. First of these is an organizational chart. And so if you Google this, you'll see a framework, a skeleton, but it's basically a chart that shows all of the different people within the company, what their roles are and what they do. You don't necessarily need to disclose, and we certainly wouldn't on the front of any conversation, what everybody's names are. However, just by understanding the roles, what people do, and that there are people and processes in place, creates a good framework from which the conversation continues. The second is historical financial performance. And sometimes these can be audited financials, sometimes they can be internal. The important part is that they're neat, clear, paint an accurate picture of the business's historical performance so that people can see what the past has looked like. Third point, and the counterpoint to second point, is the future or projected performance of the business. So if we see where the business has been, we can project where the business is going. Obviously, ownership or executives of a business will have fairly good insight into this. Now, what you don't want to see is a business that's going down, that then is projected to skyrocket up. It has to be a believable element to it, and there could be a valid reason as to why that's the case. Typically, the forward momentum is fairly consistent in that idea of inertia as the historical performance has been, but there's many different facts and circumstances, and so it's important to paint an accurate picture. Fourth of the must-haves is an overview of processes. And so when you think of any business, there's really 3 main categories of processes: sales, execution, and operations. Sales: how do you market the business and how do you bring clients in? How do leads turn into clients or customers or buyers or whatever it may be in your particular business? But the person that buys the thing, the product, service, or offering that you present. Execution is the fulfillment of that. So if it's a service, how is that service completed? If it's a product, how is that product made and delivered? And operations is how does all this stuff tie together from the perspective of financial elements, administrative, HR, legal, accounting, and all of that. And so a lot of the operations, depending on the size of a business, can purely be a series of vendor relationships, oftentimes with perhaps a few people internally, or it can be a fully internal infrastructure, depending on how the business has been built. In either case, it can be perfectly fine. Sales and execution are going to pertain more to the specifics of the business. Operations is typically just how the machine keeps operating. And lastly, as we've alluded to in other videos in the past, and we'll put up a bunch of thumbnails here to show how many times we want to pound this drum, is the narrative of the edge or the competitive advantage of the business. That being, what about the business is special? What about it's proprietary? Why can the business compete on being the best and not on purely being the lowest cost provider of its goods, services, or offering? And so to summarize this, although there's many other different items, 5 must-haves for the business exit process are an organizational chart, historical financial performance, projected financial performance, an overview of the processes, again, sales, fulfillment and execution, and operations. And lastly, a narrative of the business's edge. With these things together, it's a strong starting point for any conversation with a prospective acquirer or capital provider. So that's a thought for today. I hope the week continues to go well for everyone. Keep pushing forward. God bless. We'll see everyone next time.